All right, we are short on time, so we are going to get started. My name is Stefan Moeller, principal at Penndale Middle School. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Obviously, you're here, but if you get cut off for some reason or have to run, we will be recording this, or we are recording this, and we will be sending this out within the next few days, just for families to be able to view it. Students perhaps be able to view it with parents, guardians, etc. But we are short on time because we do have the rising 8th grade or current 7th grade parents coming in at 7:30. So we are going to get started here. So again, Stefan Muller, principal at Penndale Middle School. I'm joined with Dr. Nick Taylor, from principal at Pembroke Middle School. Also with us is Mrs. Rachel Hine, counselor at Penfield, Mr. Michael Flynn, counselor at Penndale, and Mrs. Tara Katacheski, counselor at Pembroke. Tonight, we're obviously going through the course selection information for our rising 9th graders, which would be our current 8th graders. We have two primary objectives in the next 28 minutes, and that's to give you as much information as we possibly can so that you can at least have a conversation with your child, with your student, and talk about their potential courses for next year or beyond, perhaps, and also to help set them up for success. Our counselors will be meeting with kids over the coming weeks. So rest assured that will happen as well. The other objective for tonight is to be efficient. Like I said, the rising 8th grade presentation starts at 7:30. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over to Mrs. Tara Katacheski, counselor at Pembroke Middle School, to kick things off.
Hello, parents. Welcome. This is an exciting time, 9th grade, and technically freshmen, even though we're in middle school. So there's a lot of fun things ahead. We want to just make sure we tell you as much as we can so that you feel prepared and so that your child feels prepared. All right, so course selection timelines. So as you can see right now, teachers are making recommendations for next year for 9th grade, and they have until this Friday, the 14th, to do so. And you can see those recommendations in Infinite Campus under Academic Planner. So that starts in 9th grade and it follows the children to 10th, 11th, and 12th. So they're going to be using that Academic Planner for 4 years. So you will become familiar with it if you're not already. And then February, which we're in now, we're going to have assemblies at every middle school for the 8th graders to go over what they can pick. And then February and March, we're going to be doing student course selection with them. And we are going to be, trust me, it's not just going to be like a one-time thing. Like, we are looking at this over and over and over to make sure it's right. And then February 21st, if your child's interested in going to the North Monco Tech School, those applications are due to the guidance offices on February 21st. And March 24th, parents and students can view the course selections that your child picked in Infinite Campus or in the backpack. And then April 4th is the district deadline for course selection changes. So, but like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be looking at these and making sure they're right. So no worries there. And North Monco applications, like I said, are due soon. So make sure your child fills those out if they're interested. So graduation requirements. So to graduate from North Penn, all students need 23 credits. So as you can see, 4 credits of English, 4 credits of social studies, 3 or 4 credits of math and science. So it's either or, and then 2 credits of arts and humanities, 0.9 credits of gym. So that's 3 years, and then 3.9 credits of electives. And like I said, you have to have 23 credits to graduate. All right, so these are the required courses. So we're talking later on about electives. This is what the 9th graders have to take next year. So they're all going to have English 9, and they're each 1 credit, American History 2, Math, and then Physical Science 9. Some students may need to take a reading course, so that would be added in there as well. Or for our English language learners, they may be required to take a course as well. And then now we have our required minor courses. So they're 0.3 credits each. And it's just like we did this year, it's going to be an 8-period schedule, and 2 out of the 6 days they'll have gym, 2 out of the 6 days they'll have health, and 2 out of the 6 days they'll have career readiness. Okay, now graduation requirements. So keystones, I'm sure you've probably heard that word before. So these exams are the end of the course assessments, sort of like finals, but it's supposed to show that they mastered the content. So typically, most students in ninth grade take the algebra keystone, and then later on in 10th grade, they take the biology and English keystone. So they have to be proficient in algebra, biology, and English.
Hi guys, my turn. So the elective courses. Electives are majors and minor courses that students can select or choose on their own. So they have 2 credits that they need to fill out. They can fill it out one of 2 ways. They can take 2 major courses, or then they can take a major and 3 minor courses. The minor courses, as Miss Katacheski said, would meet 2 days per cycle. Or if it's a music major minor, then it's 4 days per cycle. The ninth grade elective majors offered at our middle schools are applying tech major, art major, introduction to business major, family and consumer sciences, and world languages. We offer Latin, French, Spanish, or German first year or second year at the middle schools. At the high school, we offer Japanese 1 or JROTC. And then, of course, we also, as Ms. Katacheski was saying, your student could attend North Monco Technical Career Center. It's very important, as she mentioned, that application be turned in by February 21st to the guidance office. That would take up both of their elective credits, by the way, if they went to North Monco Technical Career Center. So the ninth grade elective minors, students may choose 2 or 3 of the following: applied tech minor, art minor, exploratory business minor, family and consumer science minor, technical drawing and design, theater arts, and here's where it becomes 2 or 3. If you take band, you could take it as a minor or a major. If you take it as a minor, it meets 2 times per cycle. Major meets 4 times per cycle. Same is true for chorus and orchestra. Your student can also take Foundations of Music Theory or Gifted Seminar if they have a GIEP. So now we're going to look at a couple sample schedules. This first one is a full day at the middle school. So the first period would be a major subject, second period would be a major subject, then they'd have pen time, then the third period would be a major subject, fourth period would be minor subjects, fifth period would be lunch, sixth period would be a major subject, seventh period major subject, eighth period could be a major or 3 minors, an elective major or 3 minors. And this is a sample of a student who starts their day at North Monco. You'll see that the difference here is they leave pen time. So they leave the school that they're attending around 10 o'clock. They go to North Monco. They're back in time for fifth period so they can have lunch at the middle school. And then they finish out their day at the middle school. So they come into the middle school, 2 periods, go to pen time for about 20 minutes. They leave for the tech school. They come back at fifth period, have lunch, and then they finish out their day at the middle school. This last sample schedule is a sample schedule of a student who starts their day at the high school. So the first 2 periods then would be at the high school. They return in time for the end of pen time, and then they finish out their day here at the middle school. So first 2 periods are at the high school, and then third period would be a major here at the middle school, fourth period minors, fifth period lunch, sixth and seventh period majors, eighth period would be either a major or minors.
All right. So I'm Rachel Hine from Penfield, and I'm going to go over some of the leveling options that there are for ninth grade through 12th grade. So one thing that's similar to the 7th and 8th grade years that your children have been used to is that some of the classes, the required majors, have 2 leveling options that the teachers recommend. What they have been called in 7th and 8th grade are a bit different than 9th through 12th, so I do want to point that out. You've probably been used to hearing level 6 classes being our academic track, and then level 6P classes being the project level classes. So starting next year, even though they're at the middle school, as we said earlier, they are considered high school students from 9th to 12th grade. So they are in the high school model of leveling, which the 5.0 classes become the academic classes or grade level classes, and the level 6 classes are the honors classes. So they're no longer called project classes. And we just wanted to point out a couple things that we find are qualities that kids that are successful in those honors classes have if your children are interested in pursuing that for their high school years. So students that do well in the honors classes are strong, independent readers and highly motivated. Their assessments and projects in those classes do have a higher difficulty level. And so your children should be motivated and interested in kind of going into a deeper level of understanding in the subject area that they're pursuing the honors level. The courses are a faster pace and go into a greater depth than the traditional 5.0 level courses. And there are some independent research extension activities required. One word I do want to highlight in this slide is the independent piece. I think a lot of times, we have middle school kids on different parts of their journey as far as how ready they are for things. And if they are more of self-starters and kids who are doing their work without a lot of prompting, they do a lot better in the honors level classes. We want to also point out that there is a really great resource guides for students and parents as they are making decisions about what classes are the best fit for them. It's called the 9th grade program of studies. There's going to be a program of studies available throughout high school, but there is a specific one that is designed for 9th grade with all the 9th grade courses, both required and elective courses. It's found on the North Penn website. You go through the high school website. So you'll be able to go into the program of studies to see all the course descriptions, the leveling available for each course, the credits available. And it's a really great starting point if your child is looking at their options and maybe isn't even sure what some of the classes are. That's a great starting point, a great resource guide for them to refer to as they're going through the process. But as we said, we're also going to be talking to kids and answering questions for the next couple months to make sure everyone's comfortable with their choices. So we mentioned North Montco Career Center being an option as elective for our 9th graders. It's a great opportunity for a lot of our kids. And I know we've said a couple times before, but that application getting turned in on time, which is by next Friday, February 21st, is such an important piece that I know we all really emphasize because as it's grown in popularity for kids to go over to the tech school, that is one of the easiest things to control is turning in the application on time. It really does make a difference in their decision making from what we're told. So we want to make sure everybody's aware of that. If your child is interested and hasn't gotten an application yet, they can pick up those applications from the guidance offices at each school and turn them in the same places. Their website, which we have listed here, is a great resource as well. If you're not quite sure what's over there, they have descriptions of every program, certifications students can get during their high school years before they even graduate, and what job opportunities might associate with those certifications. So there are some great things to check out if your child is interested in exploring that path. We already looked at the timeline, but we just wanted to refer to it one more time before we left, just to make sure that everyone was aware of kind of the process. So teachers are making recommendations right now. As we said, we are in the process of presenting to your children the same information that you're hearing tonight. We do an overview with them as well so that they're fully aware of all the expectations they have and all the choices that they have. And then we'll be spending the next couple months meeting with kids individually to help them make their selections, answer their questions, and again, just make sure that everyone is comfortable with their choices. Again, that deadline for North Montco, February 21st. March 24th is the date where parents and students will be able to view all of the courses, both that the teachers recommend and the courses that they selected. That will be a great point, and there will be more information sent out closer to that date on how to access that information. But that would be a great point to review and reflect if those choices are still in line with what the student wants, because sometimes things do change as they have more conversations with parents and students and teachers about their options. And then April 4th is that final deadline for changes if they do review it and have second thoughts about some of their choices. I think that wraps up the presentation side of things. So I believe we're moving on to the question and answer portion.
Yeah, so at this time, if any parents have questions, although I recognize you can't speak, if you would like to type into the chat, you could certainly do so. We can certainly answer it as, given that we have about 10 minutes, roughly before the next group jumps in. So if there are questions, we'll do the best that we can. I do caution though, if it's very, very, very specific to your child, it's really hard for us to get into nitty gritty. That's probably a better question to reach out to your child's school counselor directly for tomorrow, next week, something along those lines. This is more for general Q&A, to help clarify some points that we discussed here today. So certainly, if any counselors want to chime in and start taking a look at any of the questions, feel free to do so.
So, Stefan, the one question that I answered quickly on there was about Algebra 2. Their child is course advancing geometry, and they asked, would their child start at the high school for Algebra 2? And I did say, we offer Algebra 2 at the middle school, so they would not start there for Algebra 2. If they course advanced physical science, then they would start there for biology, but Algebra 2 is offered at the middle school. So,
I see one about when does the North Monco make decisions? Typically, it's mid-April. They will let us know if your child was accepted.
and they should let you know that as well. There should be an email or a letter sent home saying whether they were accepted or whether they were waitlisted.
And at times
Uh,
the wait list does open up as the year or the summer rolls on, so things can change, but the initial communication is usually in April, as Mr. Flynn said.
So the
I'm looking
question
at
is
Latin
why?
2 here. Oh, go ahead,
Yeah,
Mike.
that's okay. Go ahead. I can do Latin 2 first.
So I'm looking at Latin 2. It's really numbers based and dependent upon the building. One building, one middle school might actually run it because they might have 13 kids who are interested in Latin 2. I can say with Penndale, the last 2 years we've had under 5, and we've put that information out to the high school to see if they could make it work. And they typically, and then we come back to the family to see if the child wants to start at the high school because of Latin 2 or not. So it really is dependent upon the numbers, which we won't know until this whole process is over. You go through the April 4th deadline, and then we start looking at courses from there. So really tricky, really depends on how many kids take it. If 2 kids are taking it, we're not going to run that course at Penndale, for example. Go
So
ahead,
I
Mike.
have 2 quick questions here. First one is, why would a student start their day at the high school? It's only if the class is offered at the high school, but not at the middle school. So like I said, biology would be at the high school, pre-calculus would be at the high school. If they took Japanese or JROTC, then they would be at the high school. That is the real reason why your student would start at the high school. The second question, I think, jumped on me, but it jumped on me. So I'll let, for a student
So
who's
Mike,
attending the
I can
schedule.
take one.
Go
So
ahead.
I saw one that was asking about if a student applies for North Monco, but obviously we don't know yet who will get in right away as we're selecting classes. Is there a backup plan in place? And I'm thing that we encourage all kids to do is select alternates for all their elective choices, whether they're staying fully at the middle school, going to the high school, or applying for North Monco, because we do our best to make sure that kids get what they want, but it doesn't always work out 100% of the time. So in that situation, we are having kids, as we make selections, if they're applying to North Monco, we make a note of that, but we have them select Penfield electives as well, which is kind of their plan B. So we do have a backup plan.
There's a question on here about graduation requirements in tech school. They get all the core classes that they need at the middle school or at the high school if they're attending North Monco as well. The 2 elective credits that they would normally have for each year would be taken up by North Monco. So they would not have a whole slew of classes they need to take in their 12th grade year.
I see one about the course advancement question, just about what you can course advance, and it's either geometry or physical science 9.
And here it says, how do we factor in course advancement and course selection? If your child is going through it, you're applying for it, you're paying for it, assume that they're going to pass, and they'll work with their counselors on what that looks like. If they don't, it's an easy one for us to drop them back in. We get that information after the student completes it or does not meet the deadline, based on the MCIU timelines that they give.
I see one about asking about busing for the high school classes in the morning. So the question was, do they take the middle or the high school bus? So if a student is attending the high school in the morning to take one of those high school elective options, they would be taking the high school bus, which is an earlier start time. So I do mention that to all kids that are considering those options, because some are all in and are fully willing to get up earlier and start their day and have a little bit longer of a day. And some of them, that is a deal breaker. So that is definitely something to consider whenever your kids are making those choices.
There's a question on here about teacher recommendations and when they're available. The academic planner will show up on your student's Infinite Campus account after teachers make recommendations. So the week of February 18th, the academic planner will show up and you'll be able to see the teacher recommendations there.
I see
What are
one
the classes that
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, what are the classes that a student typically takes at the high school? It could be JROTC. It could be biology. Biology is a big one that kind of dictates, students starting there. So they'll fill it with another, with health and PE, for example, and a study hall to round that out, because we don't offer biology at the middle school level. But, there's a few of the languages that we spoke about earlier, just to name a few.
Any math
Go ahead,
after
Tom.
Algebra 2.
All right, yep.
Yeah, so I was going to answer that one about the Algebra 2. So that would be pre-calc, and we do not offer that at the middle school. So your child would have to go to the high school to take that.
Along those same lines, I saw a question about how long they'll be at the high school if they start their day there. So if it stays the same that it has been, students are up there for either 2 or 3 periods to start their day, and then they're bused back to the middle school and finish their day for the remainder of their classes at their middle school building.
And North Monco typically makes their selections when, guys? You might have mentioned it.
Middle of April.
Middle of April.
They've been hit or miss with that, so
Middle
I wouldn't
to
expect
end.
it on April 15th. Yeah, I would say closer to the end of April. Although they promise they're trying to do better this year, so fingers crossed.
Here's a question about, can the student come back from North Monco if it's not a good fit? I mean, yes, if they're failing miserably or get removed from the program, they naturally would come back. We wouldn't advise them going for 2 months and then just saying, well, I just want to come back. But certainly we'll work with kids. That's a bigger conversation than just on a Tuesday not liking it and wanting to come back right away. But we certainly would provide the education for them. The problem with that, though, is classes are full. So if a student wants to come back once and they want FCS major, it's not going to be there, at least for Penndale. So there's a caveat to that. Yes, we'll provide the academic education for kids if it's not working out at tech school, but keep in mind it's not going to be, they're not going to get the pick of the litter, if you will.
And I'll piggyback on that a little bit. I'm sure we all hear a lot that first month of tech school, they have to go through a lot of safety protocols, and general information is just the introduction to the course. And a lot of times kids get a bit discouraged at that point because it's not what they were expecting as far as the hands-on. Please know that they will get there, and just encourage them to hang in there a bit, because sometimes it is that initial part that they all have to go through about wearing the right safety gear or whatever, the program needs to go through to get to the part where they're looking forward to. So that's somewhat normal if you're hearing some of that in the first weeks of school. And then along with that, with the tech school kids, I hear a lot of time they're not sure, they're afraid of making the wrong decision. So I really just encourage students and parents that if you really are interested in this as a potential career, it's such a great chance at the, ninth grade to try something out. If they end up not liking it, they're not stuck forever. And what a great time to learn that it's not for them. That's great information. It's not like they made a bad choice, because many kids, would wait until after graduation perhaps to pursue those paths. And that can be a lot more timely and costly. So don't be afraid of making the wrong choice. If it's a real career possibility, I really encourage kids to go for it.
Just looking at some North Monco questions. North Monco is only from 10 to 12. So it is only in the morning. Students return for lunch. That's dictated by North Monco for the 9th grade program. If a student starts their day at North Penn High School, they would take the North Penn High School bus that's assigned to them to the high school. And then they take the bus from the high school to the middle school with their peers that are coming back to the respective middle school. And one that's way too complex to answer here. Why is math taken in the afternoon when students are tired instead of in the morning? as you could imagine, it's probably impossible to stack all of math in the morning. Then we'd have math teachers doing nothing in the afternoon, or class sizes would be incredibly high. So, the math, English, all of our core courses have to be spread out through the day based upon the elective schedule as well. North Monco and high school classes, those other caveats too.
I see a
If your
handful
child's
of,
chosen to
sorry.
if your child is chosen to attend North Monco, does that guarantee him a spot or her spot in 10th through 12th? Yes and no. I mean, if they're not meeting with success, no. If they are meeting with success, I'd imagine they'd matriculate forward and they're in good standing. Go ahead, Rachel.
Sure. So I just saw a handful of questions related to course advancement. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I wanted to point out that there was a virtual meeting for course advancement held on February 3rd that is now posted on NPTV's YouTube page. So you'll be able to see the recording of it. It has all the information from prerequisites to cost to the timeline and process. So if you are interested in learning more about that, or your child is interested in that, I would really encourage you watch that meeting. And then certainly if there are questions after that, students and parents can come to us to fill in those gaps. I believe those applications are due by March 21st.
I
And
see
I put a
one.
link to the information in the answer to one of the questions. I put a link to the course advancement information.
Perfect.
I see one about the honors level. So, yes, each teacher picks whether your child is in academic or honors. So it doesn't guarantee that you'll get honors across the board. And the way you can tell, I saw another question, is it would have a 5 at the end if it's academic level, and if it's honors, it would have a 6.
Okay.
I think we're getting close to the end. If you guys have more questions, you can reach out to your school counselor for sure with any questions you have.
Yeah, and I continue to see questions on course advancement. I really suggest going to the NPSD website or npen.org website. Go to For Families, go to course advancement. I've been sending that along to parents as they've asked me. It's got all the information that you have. If you ask me the question, I go right to that website. So please do that. That'll answer every question you have as far as cost, as far as offering, as far as timelines, deadlines, all that kind of stuff, application, so on and so forth. Certainly, we didn't get to all of the questions, and we do apologize for that. It is a little bit tough to read through everything and spitfire with all of us on here, but there is a lot of expertise here, and that which isn't here. So I strongly encourage you to reach out to your students' guidance or school counselor, or principal or assistant principal, for any questions. But I can tell you the school counselors are the experts on all things related to ninth grade course selection, and they're going to be working with your children over the coming weeks. So I want to thank all of our current 8th grade parents and guardians, or rising 9th grade parents and guardians, for joining us tonight.